So I was talking to a friend, right? The other day. I know I'm always talking to a friend, but we were just having a conversation about knowing what to do at a certain season in your life or just in your life in general, right? And the one thing that I took away from that conversation was that I always say many of us, but a huge percentage of people, myself included before, but we are not as aware as we should be, right? And I know a lot of people are always, pushing this movement of, self-awareness, meditate, know yourself, but do we deeply know who we are, right? Like our body is just a vessel. We think about this, right? And we're occupying a vessel for only a certain period of time, but do we know our purpose of using this vessel, right? And in terms of, my faith as a Christian, right? We have the overarching view of what we were called to do, which is to glorify God, right? That's our number one purpose. That's our sole purpose in life. But on the micro level of things, like for example, I think a lot of people are missing that awareness piece when it comes to making decisions based on who they are. Because in as much as we are called to all glorify God in everything we're doing, we're very distinct. We're humans, but we're very different. And I think a lot of us are not understanding our differences because we fail to really know who we are. And being self aware is knowing where you came from, knowing where you are, and knowing where you could be, right? And I think a lot of us, most people, I would say, oftentimes are starting from where they are and looking to get to a certain level. However, that's not how life even works, right? Because you look at a lot of um a lot of I like to say countries, right? Because I'm very big on geography and politics, right? But many countries, when you're looking to make a vision or even craft a new society, right? They oftentimes are looking at a certain pattern, right? You can bring five different groups of people who have had different histories and bring them to coexist in one place. It's going to be chaotic, right? So I'm using this example because to really know who someone is to know where they came from. So the history, right? So a lot of us don't really know our family history because I do think our family history is has the written hidden code of who we truly are. I'm not saying that you should limit yourself to where you came from, but it's extremely important to know some of the patterns that your family has had, some of the wins, some of the losses, all these different things, right? Because at the end of the day, in this life, we're all writing a book. And to really write the best chapter of your life is to go back and see the chapters that has been written before. And we can do this through different ways, right? A lot of us are privileged to have our parents living, to have, cousins, but some of us may not be as privileged, right? So, to those who are blessed, who have the privilege of having, lived with your parents or siblings or just extended family, it's extremely important that you take time to understand where you came from because that will give you the conviction to move with purpose. And for most people, when they find this out, it might be crippling, right? But it's better than not knowing, right? Because a lot of kings and queens, when they give birth and you're looking to raise a prince into a king, the first step, the number one step, is to tell him where he came from. He studies the history, like for example the monarchy, right? You can watch a lot of these shows, and when the child is like maybe 8 years old or so, you're already being educated, not in terms of school, but you're being educated on their family. Because if you don't do that, if you miss that little threshold, the child will grow up and just look at his family like it's ordinary, right? So for us, whether you have kids, whether you don't have kids, you need to start taking that number one step and figuring out who you are first. That way you can be extremely self-aware, because the gift of self-awareness is that you are now moving with conviction. And a lot of us are lacking the conviction, because when you have true conviction of what you're doing, why you're doing it, life becomes a lot simpler. It becomes more streamlined or direct, or whatever word you want to use, right? So whatever you want to take from this video is, after you're watching this, Take a step back and ask yourself, have I asked my parents deep questions? Have I asked those that came before me deep questions about who I am? Because we're all born for a purpose, right? And if you're a scientific person, you know that the DNA and all these, whatever you want to call it, right? They all go on a, on alignment. Everything has a chain. So know where you are in that chain by asking those questions, reflecting on it. And again, right, the overarching as us Christians, right, you need to understand how that can tie into your calling, what God has called you to do, because within that you will find your gifts. Within that you find what you're called to do. But yeah, that's my word for today. Thank you.